so I just had to teach myself how to cast molten aluminum metal into like objects of my choice, which I have some of those here. I used a metal foundry that I had built previously freshman year, but I had never actually gotten it working until this class here. I couldn't get my torches to actually like properly work to heat up the molten metal. They didn't have the right pressure. At first it was the hoses that I was using. They didn't let enough pressure through because they were just like the grill hoses that you would just get off a normal grill. So those only went up to I think 20 psi and need to get around 30 or 40 for the proper propane pressure. And then after that, my torches, they just weren't getting enough airflow. No, originally that had too much, so I had to restrict it and then poke holes in that to get the right regulated amount of oxygen through. And I used a sand clay like hybrid sand, which is called Petrobond sand, just because it holds its like shape really well, especially in high temperatures, which is what you would be dealing with for molten aluminum. So the way that I go about this is I start with a 3D printed object and I like kind of put it in the sand. So I take the bottom half of the mold and I fill that completely with the sand, compact it down, make sure it's all nice and tight, and then I take the 3D model and push that down into that top layer, and then I cover the bottom half of the sand that's exposed and also the 3D model. I cover that all in like a thin layer of baby powder so that the other half of the mold does not stick to either the bottom sand components or the mold itself. Then after I have the mold made, I make holes for the aluminum to be able to flow through into that, and then I just melt the aluminum and pour it in and then wait for that to solidify. I chose this because like metal casting had always been an interest of mine. On YouTube, I saw it freshman year from a guy named Grant Thompson, the king of random. That's why I built the metal foundry freshman year, is because I was wanting to go into that and start like casting different things out of aluminum and brass, gold and silver, because they're fun, and that's also the kind of stuff that my father deals with in his jewelry shop. But yeah, I was my plan for this was to make the Mandalorian suit from the show The Mandalorian. But I wasn't able to get all the pieces done, but what I was able to get done was the two shoulder pieces and the chest piece. So if you want to look at these, you can. I don't know if you're able to just because you're recording right now, but
I'll check out
these
later.
are aluminum. If you want to look at these, you can.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah. My car was not super warm on the way here. Yeah, those are the pieces that I had gotten done. It was hard making them because you can't actually tell that the metal is like fully flown into the mold until you pull it out. So that chest piece, it took me like 3 or 4 tries just because it's one of the biggest pieces of the suit besides the helmet. And I don't have a big enough crucible to be able to get that much metal into a mold. So I wasn't able to cast the helmet, and I'm probably just going to order one off of like Etsy or something like that once I get everything else in the project done. But yeah, for where I was able to get the foundry up and running, which took me for a decent bit of the class because I had to order a bunch of new parts. I had to make sure everything was flowing properly, and I also used a couple of forums on the internet to try and help troubleshoot my foundry, which is how I got to the conclusion that my torches weren't getting enough oxygen. So that took me a decent bit of the class just getting the foundry up and running, but after I did and I got all the sand, I made the like molds to hold the sand. Once I got all that stuff made, it was much easier to just get all those pieces out. The main challenges that I faced with this was the wooden frame that I used to hold the sand. I caught that on fire a few times. I did have to use my fire extinguisher for that, which I do always have, but it was definitely a new experience for me. I never had to use a fire extinguisher before, so that was fun. The mold also collapsed a few times just because I didn't have enough sand to get that top layer like as thick as I wanted it to be. So the mold for it was mainly the chest piece. Yeah, that one collapsed twice when I was making it. And as I discussed earlier, sometimes the aluminum just didn't want to flow in thoroughly to the mold that I had made. And I believe that is all I have. Are there any clarifying questions?